and you're conducting a repair to a microwave, for example, there's a part that's called the magtrometer, and if it's not replaced properly, it could explode. Okay, good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Sarah Faye Pierce. I'm the Director of Government Relations for the Association of Home Appliance Manufacturers. We represent major appliances, portables, floor care, so anything from your refrigerator to your Roomba vacuum to your Ninja blender and electric toothbrush and pretty much everything in between. We're here today in strong opposition to both the House Bill 218 and the Senate Bill 107. Really, and you're going to hear much about this from other witnesses as well, this bill is really a solution in search of a problem. Number one, a lot of the critics that we hear, or the proponents of this bill, say there's not access and there's not opportunity, and that couldn't be further from the truth.
Our disagreement here is going to come from the fact that we're in different industries. It is true in her field of home appliances and HVAC that you can still buy a dishwasher or a washing machine or a dryer and open it up, and the schematic will sometimes be in a plastic bag inside of it. Washing machines often have schematics in them, and that's the very intellectual property that she's opposed to us having. We're asking for the same availability for MacBooks as there are for these other devices. Even when I was visiting that store on Avenue C and 12th Street, there was an HVAC unit in the space, and when I moved my camera to the side of it, you could see that there was a schematic on a sticker that was right on the cabinet of the device. This is something that is standard in their industry. So when they say that this would make intellectual property available that is bad, the counter that I would have to that is that what we're asking for in our business is the same thing that you're making readily available in your business. So if it's bad, then why are you currently doing it in your industry? And that's something that I doubt I would get much of an answer to. Now, when it comes to parts availability as well, we are in different businesses. So let's just talk a little bit about the house that Paul just recently moved into. He had to do some maintenance on some of the electronics and appliances in his home since they had been in a state of disrepair. He goes to this website and he does a quick search, and in a few minutes he's able to buy all the parts that he needs to fix the appliances in his home. In their industry, they are correct that there is a level of access there. However, that is not true for every industry. Now let's talk about our business. I've talked about in many videos how some of the newer Touch Bar MacBook Pros have a chip in them that'll die sometimes for no reason, even if you haven't used a knockoff charger or gotten liquid on it. I used to think it was a knockoff charger that caused it, but this has happened when people show me original chargers as well. And the issue here is that this ISL 9239 is available, but the follow-up chip to it is not available. For machines from 2018 and onwards that use the ISL 9240, I can't get this chip. It's made by Intersil, which I believe is purchased by Renesas, and if you contact them or any of their distributors and ask to buy this chip for any amount of money, they will tell you that Apple has said don't sell this to anybody else. They won't sell it to anybody who's not Apple, and that's the problem here. Now, with other machines, with older machines they've made, if I want to buy a TPS 51125 power chip or an LP8550 or an LP8545 LED driver, I can. But now with these newer machines, you're not able to do something that just a few generations ago you were able to do. And for anybody who says that the access is there, you're just ignoring it, that this is a solution in search of a problem, I will give you $1,000 in cash if you're able to find me a source for ISL 9240s that sells chips that work, that I can confirm work when I solder it onto a new board, that can regularly supply them. I'm not talking about some dead-end email address that hasn't been confirmed, or a site that doesn't work, or a donor board that I can rip it off of, because that's the very garbage I'm doing now. We're ripping these chips off of donor boards, trying to find costly donor boards, reballing them, wasting time if that board is a donor board because the chip that's on it is bad. We're already doing all that kind of junk right now. It increases cost to the consumer, and it increases turnaround time to the consumer because it's a lot more work on our part to put into fixing a board. If any one of these lobbyists are able to actually find us a genuine spool of them, not only will I pay the price per chip, but I will give you $1,000 if you can show me that that access is there. If I'm right and it's not there, I'm right. And if I'm wrong, it's still a win-win because that means that I'm better able to do my job. When people say that this is a solution in search of a problem and that the access already exists, what do you think I'm doing here? I was sick this day, if you watch the live streams in the live channel, while I was getting on a plane at last minute and paying the last minute getting on a plane, making a reservation for your flight and your hotel tax to show up here. why do you think I'm putting all that money into that? Why do you think that I'm doing this on what was supposed to be my day off while I'm sick? Do you think this is something that I would be doing if I could go to Mouser or DigiKey and just buy this chip for $5 to $10? It's not. The reason that we're here is because what used to be commonplace several generations ago is no longer commonplace now, but the law has not caught up to this change in corporate culture whereby they think that the devices that we purchase are now disposable. The laws that are being used now to deny us access to parts or schematics or diagrams, the very laws that are the basis of the cease and desist complaints that keep people like me from being able to receive schematics or be able to buy parts, are laws that were created 40 to 70 years ago, back when the corporate culture was different. Nobody would have imagined 70 years ago that devices that were almost necessary to being a professional in the modern age would be devices manufactured by companies that would utilize these laws to ensure that regular people in licensed repair shops were unable to fix them purely out of spite or greed. The culture has changed, but the law has not. So we're trying to get that law to catch up with the culture so that it doesn't continue to act as a boot on our neck.
A survey of our members this year shows incredible and broad availability for repair. In fact, we have 19,000 repair options available across this country. That does not include Canada. We have more than 80% of those are independent, affiliated, who are certified to repair the brands that I represent. 90% of that 80% are the smallest of the small businesses across this country, between 1 and 10 employees. So we are really truly providing a pipeline for these small businesses to flourish in their communities. 20 states, as I'm sure you're well aware, have examined this issue this year. None have taken action.
You already know what I think of that argument.
This has been denied in every state. Why Boston? Why Massachusetts? Wouldn't that have been a great attitude to have 250 years ago?
Thank you for your...
Because they agree this is a solution in search of a problem. Consumers have choice today. Once you purchase a home appliance, the position of AHAM is that you have the right to choose however you want to repair that product, whether it's by yourself or to seek some other independent, whether it's not affiliated or affiliated with our brands and our manufacturers. That does not mean that we support the fact that anybody has a right, if you have a business license, to get access to the intellectual property of those brands who are offering those products for sale.
This point on intellectual property being available to anyone with a business license is something that I think is really important. When I Google washing machine, this is the first washing machine that Google recommends to me. When I Google the model number of that washing machine and the word schematic, this is the first thing that shows up. I don't even need a business license in that field in order to get access to this schematic and wiring diagram, and the very industry that she's claiming does not want to give that intellectual property out. It is available for free for anybody to look at and access on the manufacturer's website.
We have a number of concerns with regard to this legislation, safety being one, the top. First and foremost, anyone who comes into the home to repair those appliances that have broken down or who need a replacement parts must be vetted. They must go through proper background checks and certain security screenings to make sure that not only they're capable of repairing that product that has been broken or is in disrepair, but they also have, there's security and there's a confidence that that homeowner has when those individuals are entering the home.
This is a sleight of hand, very similar to what Lisa McCabe at CTIA was doing in the last video that I did regarding her testimony. You do need background checks to get a business license, and this bill is not going to change anything about business licensing. I have a license for my business with the New York City Department of Consumer Affairs. If I let that license expire, or I don't have a license at all, and they show up and they see I don't have a license, they can close my business so that I can no longer take customers. That is their power to do, because I need to have a license if I'm going to be providing this type of service of home appliance or electronics repair to customers. No language in the bill says that this removes licensing requirements. And one of the reasons that they're never citing that in the bill is because it doesn't exist. The sleight of hand that they're doing here is saying, You don't want unvetted people. You don't want rapists and pedophiles and murderers into your home, right? Well, then say no to this bill. Well, yeah, I don't want unvetted people showing up in my apartment either. That's great, but that has nothing to do with the language in this particular bill. Furthermore, you can get a handyman that is unvetted to go into your place off of Craigslist. You do need to be vetted to be on a site like Angie's List. To my knowledge, Angie's List do background checks before a service professional can list on their site. But anyone can put an ad on some random website and come into your house or fix your fridge. Anybody can put their paper sign on a telephone pole with their advertisement saying handyman, or put stickers of that in the subway and say, I can fix your washing machine, get that schematic and wiring diagram from their website for free, and just show up at your house and fix it. It's not like this law is going to change the marketplace so that it is very different from how it is right now. If I let my license expire, people will show up at my store and they will close my store. If I screw over customers that complain to that licensing organization, they will close my store. Before or after this bill is passed. This has nothing to do with the content in this bill. It's simply something where they're trying to appeal to that middle ground where everybody's going to say yes in order to get them to agree with their overall thesis, even when this licensing part of it has nothing to do with the actual bill.
As I've said, technicians are required to have multiple certifications if that independent business is affiliated with our OEMs and our brands. And wow, that was worse than my alarm this morning. Let me just run through these very quickly, and then I'll wrap up and hand over to my colleagues. State certifications for handling electricity and gas. EPA 608 certification, which requires a special certification to handle refrigerant gases. This is incredibly important currently, as right now we're in this massive shift of, I feel like I just lost my mic, massive shift away from these high global warming potential gases into less.
This is going to differ from area to area. In some areas, you do need a CFC certificate to handle refrigerant and refrigeration and air conditioning equipment. However, this certificate is only going to certify that you know how to handle refrigerant safely without discharging it into the environment. The certificate has nothing to do with the skill level of repairing the equipment. However, you need that certificate to handle these refrigerants. You need a license to do that. Whether it's a license, a permit, or a certificate, this is going to differ by the jurisdiction. But in most civilized places, you do need some sort of permit, license, or certificate to handle those refrigerant gases and liquids. This is not something that this bill changes. The EPA already prevents consumers from buying refrigerant gases without an HVAC permit, so I don't understand what the problem is here. I'm not going to be able to, without a permit or a license or experience, just walk into some IBM data center and say, hey, I can save you a lot of money on cooling your servers over that licensed guy with the fluid that's in my backpack. Why don't you hire me? I'm not going to be able to do that. It's not something that this bill is going to allow.
Impacting gases. I'm not sure what happened to my mic.
We did kind of losing the mic here, but can you just pass the list on to the person next to you? We can read it from there, so we can move the testimony along,
sure.
please. Because I can see the list from up here. We don't like people reading too much.
Oh, sure. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, but all I'm saying is that these certifications must be maintained, again, to ensure that these are safely repaired products. Thank you.
At the end of the video, I like to put a little mashup of what it is they said or what it is I heard of their testimony. Rather than do that here, I'd just like to provide you with a clip of what this same lobbyist said about 2.5 years ago. Many people have this idea that the people that are showing up are people who are involved in the business, very knowledgeable about the business, they know the field very well. There is some viewer discretion advised. If you know how a microwave works, or you're an appliance repair technician, or you just know anything about a microwave, I would strongly advise you to hit the X button on this video before continuing to the end. That being said, let's see what they said 2.5 years ago.
My name is Sarah Faye Pierce. I'm appearing today on behalf of the Association of Home Appliance Manufacturers. LD 67 comes into conflict with important industry tenets: safety, product safety. OEMs develop diagnostic tools for certified engineers who have the educational and technical background and training necessary to troubleshoot, diagnose, and conduct repairs to the appliance. LB67 will make it difficult for OEMs to determine if third-party technicians are utilizing factory-approved replacement parts, are correctly interpreting diagnostic tools. Once the access to that information has been gained and you're conducting a repair to a microwave, for example, there's a part that's called the magtrometer, and if it's not replaced properly, it could explode. My name is Sarah Faye Pierce. I have the educational and technical background.
Yeah, there's
a
no way
part
around
that's
it. You could
called
just
the
tell as soon as she started
magnetometer.
going,
And if it's not
that this
replaced
is going to be
properly,
really,
it
really
explodes.
painful and really hard to sit through. And you could tell that there were people in the audience that were just steaming at this. Like, they were just waiting. They wanted to interrupt. They wanted to run up and say something, but you can't.